Welcome all to our webinar today, and we'll be having a look on land parcel management, and in specific we'll be looking on how we can administer our parcels. So we'll have two places to look at. We'll first of all look at what is Parcel Fabric in ArcGIS Pro. Then we'll also have a look on how we can do data migration into the Parcel Fabric. And then we'll also have a look on how we can do the same data migration, but by using tasks in ArcGIS Pro. So generally, why do we need a Parcel Fabric? The main reason we need the Parcel Fabric is because of the needs in different organizations to maintain accurate and up-to-date authoritative parcel data. So the need for having accurate and authoritative parcel data is one of the main reasons that we are moving into the use of Parcel Fabric. And what is a Parcel Fabric? So a Parcel Fabric is more of a comprehensive framework that allows us to manage, to edit, and even to share parcel data. And most of parcel data is land ownership records, and it can even be any other parcel data depending on how your organization uses the land-related data. So some of the features that come with using Parcel Fabric in ArcGIS Pro is, first of all, it has a very simple and a flexible data model. So when you're using Parcel Fabric in ArcGIS Pro, it allows you to create different parcel types. And these parcel types can be subdivisions, they can be boundaries, they can even be tax parcels. And another thing about these tax parcels is that each of these parcels can have its own schema. You can design it to have its own subtypes and even the behaviors. And you can even extend them such that you want to use maybe in your enterprise GIS for the whole organization. You can even use it in working with 2D and 3D information. Then another factor that comes with using Parcel Fabric in ArcGIS Pro is that it is record-driven. It has a record-driven workflow that everything that you work with in the Parcel Fabric is linked to the records. So if you tend to change your parcel information or you delete the parcel, then the same information will also be represented in the records parcel type. Then it also has inbuilt quality management. So for the inbuilt quality management, it allows the administrators to define different behaviors that they want the parcel types to have. For example, you can define the topological rules. We even have what we call attribute rules. So the administrators can even define those attribute rules. Then all of these topologies can be validated against the rules just so that the administrators can be able to ensure there's good data quality of their work. Then it is web enabled. For those who are using, again, enterprise, you can publish it into your enterprise GIS. You can share it in groups, and other people in the organization can also be able to access the fabric. And for those, again, who are using enterprise GIS, it also allows for multi-user editors for the fabric, that you can have different people working in different parcel types within the enterprise GIS. So a Parcel Fabric, we also say it's a controller data set. That's from the first image here, we can see that this is the first one is the Parcel Fabric. It controls everything that happens within the parcel types. So once you create the Parcel Fabric, it creates for you connection lines, it creates for you points, the records, and also the topology. Then the second part here we can see are the parcel types. So you can have as many parcel types as you need depending on your organization. But again, each of these parcel types will create a polygon and also a line feature. So some of the feature classes that come with the Parcel Fabric. First, we have the records, whereby all the information is stored in the records. Then the feature classes can either be polygons and lines. Then we have connection lines. For the points here, it includes the control points that you have and even the rest of the other points. Then we also said that with Parcel Fabric, it creates for you topology. So those errors that come from the topology will be created as an error feature class. So that's why we have these errors. This is a feature class that represents all the errors from the topology. After you've created your Parcel Fabric, you don't need to add different each individual of these layers that you have, the feature classes. All you need to do is just add the Parcel Fabric, and all the associated layers will also be added to your map. So we are all looking at how every data needs to have good quality. So what is a parcel that has good quality? So generally, the good quality of your parcel is defined by your organization. It can be defined by the type of rules that you want to be within your parcel data. It depends also with the kind of the total number of information you want included in the parcel data. So previously, we used to have Parcel Fabric in ArcMap, and here are the features that came with the Parcel Fabric in ArcMap. But for most people, it was too complex to work with Parcel Fabric in ArcMap. So at the end of the day, most organizations were not able to move into using Parcel Fabric through ArcMap because of the complexity. So right now with ArcGIS Pro, it is much easier to work with Parcel Fabric. And these are some of the common differences between the two. We'll have a demo which will show at least how easy it's going to be with working in Parcel Fabric in ArcGIS Pro. So some of the properties now that come with the Parcel Fabric, first of all, each information is related to the record. So whatever you change, if you delete the parcel types, you update the parcel types, each of this information will also be related to the original record. Then the feature classes can easily be extended, and you can also publish them into your enterprise GIS. It does not have any hidden fields or any hidden tables. And if you're using enterprise GIS, it allows you to make use of branch versioning. And also for those people who want to do some 3D work with their parcel information, with ArcGIS Pro, it allows you to do both 2D, 3D, and even 4D analysis that you want to work with your Parcel Fabric. Now, in working with the Parcel Fabric, we have what we call the Parcel Fabric Information Model. So for the Parcel Fabric Information Model, it works with the parcel types. So here we have parcel type A and parcel type B. And the parcel types can be named in any other way. It could be maybe parcel type A could be ownership information, parcel type B could be maybe subdivision information, or any other kind of information you wanted to be added in the parcel types. Again, with working with ArcGIS Parcel Fabric in ArcGIS Pro, it supports some features that were currently not supported in ArcMap. For example, it currently allows you it supports overlapping of lines. It also allows some points not to be split. For example, here we can see from point 1 to point 2, the line is a straight line. It is not splitted by 0.5. But while the line from point 3 to point 6, we can see here the line is split by 0.4. So when you're working with Parcel Fabric in ArcGIS Pro, if you have a data that requires that you don't split, you can easily do that as it is already supported. So we also mentioned topology. So it has an inbuilt topology. Once you add your data, you can just run the topology, and all the errors will be represented by a feature class, which is called an error feature class. Now, earlier we said that working with that Parcel Fabric in ArcMap was a bit complicated because, first of all, it required you to make sure all your data is thoroughly cleaned before loading it. Now, the whole process of data cleanup was, at least we can say, a bit complicated for some people. So that was one of the reasons most people did not prefer using Parcel Fabric in ArcMap. But now, when you're using Parcel Fabric in ArcGIS Pro, we say you migrate today, then you fix later, meaning you'll just add your data now, then as you keep working with it, you'll keep editing it and doing every other thing. Then we'll also have a look with how you can make use of administrative tasks. We understand that in ArcGIS Pro, you are able to create a task and then run it so that it just does whatever you want it to do. So this applies also in Parcel Fabric. We have some built-in tasks that are already there. So in case someone finds it is complicated to run the fabric, you can just use if you see it's complicated to run independent tools, you can just run the tasks and then it will just create for you the Parcel Fabric and everything. So where can you get the tasks within your ArcGIS Pro? So this is the link for getting the tasks within your ArcGIS Pro. It's found in the folder where you have installed your ArcGIS Pro, whereby for most computers it's in local disk C. So once you have added your tasks, you just import them and run the tasks. So let's have a look on how first we can do data migration using Parcel Fabric. So in doing data migration using Parcel Fabric, we'll be doing that by using ArcGIS Pro. I hope you can all see my screen. So the first thing we need to do, first you need to have a folder where you're going to work, or all your information is going to be stored. Then you also need to have a geodatabase that you'll be working with. For those that maybe don't know how to connect to a folder from the catalog, you'll just right-click at the folders, then you'll just add a folder connection into it. Then within your folder, you'll create, within our folder, let's create a file geodatabase. We'll be working with a file geodatabase, but you can also work with an enterprise geodatabase if you want to. So for our geodatabase, let's name it Parcels. Let's name it maybe Parcels Webinar. So this will be the geodatabase we'll be working with right now. And from the databases here, we can see our geodatabase here. So let's make it a default. To make it default, you'll just right-click on the geodatabase and say default. Now that we have our geodatabase, the first thing that we need to do is to create a feature data set into it. So we'll right-click, go to new, then we'll create a feature data set. So in doing this, since I have my geodatabase as the default one, so the feature data set will be created within that geodatabase. We need a feature data set because a Parcel Fabric is created within a feature data set. And also, another important thing to note is that you can only have one Parcel Fabric in one feature data set. So for a feature data set, we can just name it ownership. Let's name it ownership. For our coordinate system, you have to know the coordinate system of the area that you're working with. So for my case, you have to know the coordinate system of the area that you're working with. And for my case, I'll be working with Arc 1960, UTM Zone 37 South, because the source data that I have is in this coordinate system. So I have to ensure they both have the same coordinate system. Now I can just run the create feature dataset tool and my ownership dataset will be created. Now that I have Now that I have created a feature data set, let's see if it can be seen from here. Here is the feature data set that we created, which is called ownership. Now, the next thing that we need to do is to create the parcel fabric. So to create the parcel fabric, we need to run the tool called create parcel fabric. To view the geoprocessing tools, you can just go to the analysis tab, then go to tools. Then it will open for you the geoprocessing window. So from the geoprocessing window, I need to now run the create parcels tool, the create parcel fabric tool. So here is my tool. I'm going to run it. The target feature dataset is the feature dataset that we just created, the ownership dataset. So we'll browse to our databases and add the feature dataset that we had created. Then we have to name our parcel fabric. What will be the name of our parcel fabric? We can also name it ownership. Maybe we say ownership sample. Let's name it ownership fabric. So this will be the name of our parcel fabric. So after we have named that, we just need to run the create parcel fabric tool. So from here, we have run the create parcel fabric tool, and now we'll be able to see the tool from the catalog. We'll be able to see the fabric from our catalog. So if we extend now our ownership, data set, we can now see that we have a fabric here. We can now see that we have a parcel fabric here, which we had named it ownership. So within our fabric, we first have the ownership fabric, but it has also created for us the points, the connections, the records, and even the topology. Now that we have the parcel fabric, it's empty, we need to add some parcel types into it. So you can have as many parcel types as you need, but we'll just add one. So here to add the parcel type, you right click the fabric, then you go to this add sign, then you add the parcel type. So for a parcel type, we could just name it, let's say ownership parcels. So once you have named your parcel, you'll just run the tool. So for the parcels, you can add as many parcels as you need, but in our case, we'll just use one parcel. Then the next thing you can do, depending on your organization, you probably have some data types you want included within the parcel. You probably maybe want to create domains. You want to add attribute fields to be used in that specific ownership parcel feature class. So once you have created it, we can just go to our geodatabase. Then we'll go to design. So what we are going to do, we'll just create one domain into it. we'll create only one domain into it, but if you have domains, then you can add your domains. If it's not necessary, you can just keep it. But again, for the parcel types that we have, for our parcel type, which is the ownership parcel, we need to see what are the attributes that we have. So let's go to design, then we design the fields. So by default, these are inbuilt fields which will be created once you design your parcel type. So from here, you can add more fields depending now with the nature of your organization. So since mine are ownership parcels, I can maybe add a field for maybe the owner name and make it a text field. So here you can add as many fields as you want, depending with the kind of information you want included in your parcel type. So now we have created our fabric, but we need to load data. It has no data. Now, before we load data, we need to have a look at our original. We'll need to have a look at the original data that we have. So from the catalog pane again, I will browse to the original data that I have. My original data was a card data. So this is my original data. My original data was a card data set, which I had converted. And what I will be looking at are the polygons within the card data set that I had. So to view the fields within the polygon set data set, I'll right click on the polygon, then I'll go to design, then I'll look at the fields. So these are the fields that are within my source data. So from the source data fields, I'll look at the fields that I want also included within my parcel type. So from here, I can opt to add these two fields into my parcel data, into my parcel attributes. So I'll just right click and select them and copy. Then I'll have to also open the newly created parcel type that I have. So the parcel type that we created is the ownership parcels. So we'll right click on the ownership parcels. We'll go to design. Then we'll also open its fields. So from here, I will also add the same fields that I collected from the original data. From here, I will copy paste them. Why do I need to have these uniform fields? I need to have at least a few similar fields because I'll be appending data. So now that at least I have the surveyor name and the survey ID from the original source data, I already have them in my new parcel. I can now load data into this parcel. Now to load data into the parcel, all you need to do is to run the append data tool from the geoprocessing toolbar. So from this geoprocessing toolbar, I'll just say append. Then I'll run this append data tool. So the input data set is the original data set that has your data. So for this case, the input data set will be the polygons. Sorry. I'll browse to my input data set. The input data set will be the polygon layer from the original card data which I had. And the target data set will be the new the new parcel that we had created. So we'll still browse to the database that we are using and add the ownership parcels. So I don't want to use, for the schema type, I don't want to use the command of the input schema to match the target schema, because I know most of the schema does not match. So the only way I'll be able to add the data is by using the field map. So what the field map will do is reconcile the differences between those attributes. So in this case, the ones are in red are the ones that are not found in both schemas. Then these two fields are the ones that I had added. So the ones in black are the common fields in both schemas. Now that I've been able to identify the common fields, I can just run the tool in order to append the data. So now I believe that I have my data. Now, after we have added the data, we now need to run the topology, because remember we said we have an inbuilt topology when you're working with Parcel Fabric in ArcGIS Pro. So to run the topology, we need to run the enable parcel topology tool. So this is the tool we are going to run, enable parcel topology. So what it needs is what it requires is the original fabric that we are working with. And in our case, we'll just browse. This is the fabric that we are working with. So we'll just connect the ownership fabric and say, okay. Then we are going to run the tool. So as of now, we have already run the tool. So we believe our parcel has data, and also we have allowed it, we have enabled the topology. So the next thing we need to do is to create some parcels record. We need to create records within our parcels. So what this tool does is that it creates records based on the record names of an attribute field that were added to the parcel type polygon. So to create the records again, we'll run another tool, which is create record. So we'll run the create parcel records tool. So the parcel feature that we're working with is the ownership parcels, and we'll just create record based on the surveyor name field. Then we'll run the tool. So now that we have run all these tools, let's go back to our catalog. Now we want to see, does our parcel really have any information into it? So we'll just open our parcel, we'll right click on the parcel, and we'll add it to a new map. So we right click it, add it, then we'll add it to a new map. And then we'll wait and see the changes that happen. So this is the parcel that I have. So from here you can see my parcel only has polygons because I used only the polygon layer. There are no points, there are no line features. Now in order to add all the missing information that is within the original source data, but you have not added it here, which includes the points and the lines, we'll have to build the parcel. So we'll get back again to the geoprocessing tool. Then now we'll be running the build parcel tool. So we'll run the build parcel fabric tool. So the input parcel fabric again is the ownership fabric that we created. I can just leave the extent to default and run the tool. So what does this tool do? This tool brings in all the information that is missing. So it has already run. You can see now I have, there are new points that have been added. We also have lines that have also been added into a parcel. So based again on the kind of your source data, If it had annotations, it had labels and everything will also be added. But here the sample data that I was using did not have did not have several annotations. Now, when I zoom in now, you can see the points. You can even see the lines that have just been added by running the build parcel. So if we had the labels and everything, all that information will now be visible right now after I've run the build parcel fabric tool. But another way of running these tools, rather than running one independent tool, we can just use the tasks. So we said that when you're working with Parcel Fabric, you can work with the tasks. So the next thing we'll want to do before we run to the tasks, let's have a look at what we have just done so far. So what we just did was doing the data migration, and these are the steps that we followed. We first created a feature dataset. We later on created a parcel fabric. We added a parcel, but we only added one parcel. But based on the nature of your organization, you can add as many parcels as you need. Then we later on appended the data. We did not extend the information model because we did not create any domains. We appended our data, and after we had appended our data, we enabled the parcel topology, and at the end, we built the parcels. So on the right, this is a model that you can use in doing the data migration. So before we end, I want us to have a look at the tasks. So we said ArcGIS Pro also works with tasks. So what it does when you're working with Parcel Fabric is that ArcGIS Pro will ship those tasks to the Parcel Fabric, and these tasks, the task file can be contained for the administrative task file will contain the task for administration, and this is the location where our task will be found. So for the next demo, we'll be looking on how we'll be adding the task. So I'll just browse to my location. Let me unshare the screen, then reshare it again. So right now, I want to look on how you can use the tasks. Generally, we can say using the tasks is a bit easier compared to running one tool after another. So how do we get to using the tasks? So in order to use the tasks, first you need to open the insert. So from insert here, we have this task bar. So this is the bar which allows us either to create new tasks or to import the task that already exists. So what we are just going to do is to import tasks that already exist. Now in importing the task, we'll browse to local disk C, then we'll move to our program files. We'll go to ArcGIS. We'll go to ArcGIS, then Pro. The task file are contained within the resources folder. So we'll open the resources folder, and here we'll browse and look for tasks. So here is the tasks. We'll open the ENUS. Now, because we are dealing with the Parcel Fabric, we are just going to use the Parcel Fabric folder for the tasks, and then we'll open it. Now, within the task folder, there are two tasks. We have the administration task, and we also have the record-driven workflows task. Today, we are just having a look at the administration tasks, so that from here, everybody can at least be able to migrate their data into the Parcel Fabric. Then later on, we are going to have a look on how you can maybe work with those parcels, including maybe editing them or anything else. So we are just going to add the Parcel Fabric administration task. So now that we have added the task, on the right hand bar, we have these tasks. Now here we have two options. We have an option of either upgrading an ArcMap Parcel Fabric. We are not going to use this option because what we did is create a new Parcel Fabric from ArcGIS Pro. But in case someone had already worked with Parcel Fabric in ArcMap, you don't need to ignore the work or delete whatever you had done with it. You'll just do an upgrade from ArcMap to ArcPro. So in our case, we're just going to run the second tool, which is loading data. And from here, we can see the first step here is set up the information model. So when you're working with tasks, it's just a matter of clicking. So when we're setting up the information model, we can see here the first procedure is to create a feature data set. And in creating the feature data set, we have to define the spatial reference, ensure that the spatial reference matches the source data. It also tells us that only one Parcel Fabric can be created in a feature data set. So if you want to create several fabrics, it's important to ensure you have different feature data sets. So from here, we'll just define our geodatabase. So for the database, let's just use the same geodatabase that we had. Then we'll give it a name. So for this, because we have already created another data set with a fabric in the same geodatabase, so let's give it at least a different name this time. We could name it like a task data set. Now for the coordinate system again, the coordinate system must match the system of your original data. And my original data is of Arc 1960. So I'll just use the same coordinate system. Once I've defined all this, I'll just run the tool. And after it has created, it will run me to the next step, which is creating a Parcel Fabric. So the target feature data set here is the data set that we just created. So the data set that we just created is within the Parcels webinar. So let's refresh it so that we can see the new data set. So the one we created earlier is the ownership, but now we are working with the task data set. So we'll add it as our feature data set. Then we'll name the fabric that is going to be contained within this feature data set. So let's name it owner's task fabric. So after we have named the fabric, we'll just run again. Once the tool finishes running, it gives us, okay, I hope you saw the warnings. It gave us warnings because we have already run a similar thing. So once you run it, we'll just open the next step, which is adding parcel types. So we just need to import the Parcel Fabric, which is the ownership. Sorry, it's not the ownership. The owner task fabric. Then we'll name the parcel type that we are adding. So we could name it maybe owner task parcel. Once we name the parcel type again, we just run the tool. As it finishes running, it will just automatically load for us the next step. So the next step here is to create domains. But let us skip this. We are going to skip this step because we don't really have many domains to work with right now. So we'll skip this step and proceed to the next one. So the next step here is to add fields. So what we'll do is add fields to the task data set that we have. So we are going to add fields to our task data set. Once we have added the task, We mentioned earlier that we have an option of configuring the attribute rules, but again, this is optional. It's you don't have to run it. If you feel like you need it, then you can run it. So we can still skip this one and finish our. We can skip this step. So once we finish all the tasks, it will be able to finish the procedure, and we'll have set up the information model. So in the information model here, so we had created a parcel type, but since it does not, I cannot see it, let us recreate it. So the good thing with task is that you can still go back. So let's go a bit back and then add the parcel type. So we said our input parcel fabric was the ownership task fabric. So now we'll add again a parcel type. We name it owner parcel type. Then we run the tool. Then once we have added the owner parcel type, we can now go back to the next step. We said we will jump creating the domains. So we'll skip this step and head to the next one. Whereby we'll be adding the fields to the parcel type. And after we have added it, now we can be able to load the parcels into the map. So you can use either workflow. You can work with adding step by step, or you can just directly use the task to create your parcel fabric. So generally here, we have shown two methodologies of creating a parcel fabric. We have shown two ways of creating a parcel fabric, which is either you can use the administrative tasks, or you could use the data migration steps. So it all depends with how you feel it's going to be easy for you. If you feel using the tasks will be much easier because it's like you are just running the tools, yes, you can go ahead with using the tasks. But again, if you just want to work with individual running of those tools, you can just go through the first procedures that we had used. Now, this is the end of our presentation.